Welcome, friends, to Comfort and Tea. I'm PK Carpenter, and I am so excited today because today we are going to do our first book review, Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. We'll be reading passages from this book, we'll be talking about themes, and we'll be talking about wonderful descriptions that Montgomery has written in this book. And along with our book, we're going to be having our tea. And today's tea is Earl Grey with lavender. This is my favorite brand, Twinings Earl Grey with lavender. I'm not promoting this brand, but I'm just letting you know this is my favorite. So let me have a sip of my tea. That's delicious. And let us begin our first book review. Thanks for coming along. That we have our first book review of Anne of Green Gables. This is such a wonderful book to me, and it's one of my top comfort reads. And let me talk to you a moment about what comfort reading is. My idea of what comfort reading is when you take a good book, like Anne of Green Gables, and you find a comfortable chair, like my soft velvet purple chair, maybe a nice blanket that you put around your shoulders and you wrap up in, and maybe even a little friend, real or stuffed, and you just settle in for a lot of comfort and calm and joy and happiness in enjoying that wonderful story that you're about to read. And it just gives you time to savor the moments and savor the words on the page. And so that's my idea of comfort reading. So let's see how Lucy Maud Montgomery, the author of this book, describes Anne. And this is in the very first chapter. I'm putting on my fancy glasses so that I can read these words clearly. A child of about 11, garbed in a very short, very tight, very ugly dress of yellowish gray wincey. She wore a faded brown sailor hat, and underneath that hat, extending down her back, were 2 braids of very thick, decidedly red hair. Her face was small, white, and thin, also much speckled. Her mouth was large, and so were her eyes, that looked green in some lights and moods, and gray in others. So just thinking about this description that Lucy Maud Montgomery wrote, we see that on appearances, she's not a very beautiful child. And she doesn't have very nice clothes. And so we know that she is an orphan. We will find out later on in succeeding pages that she is an orphan. And she talks about her parents that she really did not know very well. And then she also talks about the places that she lived and the kind of life that she had before Matthew Cuthbert encountered her, because Matthew was sent to pick up Anne at the train station. But of course, the surprise is that he was expecting a boy, because Matthew and his sister Marilla had asked for a boy to come and work on their farm. But instead, they get Anne. Anne most definitely does not like her red hair. She feels it is her greatest fault, and that is the one thing that she cannot use her imagination to imagine away. So let's read a passage here in chapter 2 as Matthew is taking her back to Green Gables. Just now I feel pretty nearly happy, and that's because she was looking at all the beautiful landscape as they were driving along. I can't feel exactly happy because, well, what color would you call this? She twitched one of her long, glossy braids over her thin shoulders and held it up before Matthew's eyes. It's red, ain't it? He said. Yes, it's red, she said resignedly. Now you see why I can't be perfectly happy. No one could who had red hair. I don't mind other things so much, the freckles and the green eyes and my skinniness. I can imagine them away. I can imagine I have a beautiful rose leaf complexion and lovely starry violet eyes. But I cannot imagine that red hair away. And so Anne struggles just like we all do with our looks. And it's that red hair that really is her downfall, that really gets her discouraged. But she can imagine her complexion and her eyes and the rest of herself to be perfectly wonderful. Now here, still in the first chapter, is when we learn about Anne's vivid imagination. Because as Matthew is taking her back to the farm, because he decided that Marilla was going to have to look at her and decide whether or not they were going to keep her, that Anne starts talking about the landscape that they are driving through. And they come upon an area that has these beautiful trees. And Anne asks what it's called. And he says, well, now you must mean the avenue, Matthew said, after a few moments of profound reflection. It's kind of a pretty place. Pretty? Oh, pretty doesn't seem the right word to use, nor beautiful either. They don't go far enough. Oh, it was wonderful, wonderful. It's the first thing I ever saw that couldn't be improved upon by imagination. And so then Anne continues on, and she says, I have lots of times whenever I see anything royally beautiful, they couldn't be called that lovely name, the avenue. There is no meaning in that. They should call it, let me see, the white way of delight. I shall call it the white way of delight. And that's just one example of how Anne sees things around her, uses her imagination and her vivid choice of words, and comes up with a different way to call a particular place, because it puts a happier, more joyful connotation to it. So let's talk about this book, Anne of Green Gables. It takes place on Prince Edward Island, which is above the state of Maine, and it is in Canada. And on this island, the main character, Anne, comes to live with Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert. Oh, Anne, she is such a wonderful character. She is this red-headed girl with such an optimistic spirit, such a pluckiness to her, such an imagination that you get swept away in all the stories and the visions that she has to tell. And she is so adorable that I just want to give her a big hug, and I want to tell her that all of her dreams will come true and that she will have such a happy life. There are several things that I want to include in my book review of Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. One of those themes is friendship and belonging. Anne wants to have a bosom friend, an intimate friend, a best friend, in whom she can share her innermost soul. There are also beautiful descriptions of nature that Lucy Maud Montgomery writes, and we see those descriptions as being something through Anne's eyes. And so let me share with you some quotes that connect to these themes For the joy of living. Dear old world, she murmured, that is Anne. You are very lovely, and I am glad to be alive in you. And then also she says, I believe the nicest and sweetest days are not those on which anything very splendid or wonderful or exciting happens, but just those things that bring simple little pleasures, following one another softly, like pearls slipping off a string. Isn't that a wonderful visual? Pearls slipping off a string. That those simple pleasures can be like pearls, one after another. And that we can find those simple pleasures in life and treasure them like someone would treasure pearls. I think that's a lovely idea. Also, there's passages about the gratitude and love in friendship. Do you know, Anne says, I am so thankful for friendship. It beautifies life so much. And that also is a wonderful idea, that the friends we have make our life more beautiful. And I think about my friendships. Way back when I was 5 and 6 years old, Sharon Carlin lived across the street from me in South Bend, Indiana. Hello, Sharon, if you're still out there, it's Patty Heiner. And I think about those times that we had together as small girls. And then also Jenny Piercefield from Columbus, Indiana. I remember those wonderful times of being together with Jenny in school and at her house. And Jenny, if you're still out there, it's me. I hope we can connect somehow, maybe through this video. And then my third friend, Diane Groner from Coldwater, Michigan, who now is Diane Anthony. She is my longest friend that I have kept in contact with, and I treasure all the times, all the memories that I've had with her from 5th grade onward, and even when we've been back together at our high school reunions. It's always wonderful to see her again. And so friendships can make our lives more beautiful. And I think that is a wonderful idea that we can get from Anne of Green Gables. And then also when it comes to kindred spirits and bosom friends, true friends are always together in spirit. And yes, I would say that the friends that I have, even though they are far away, I know that we are together in spirit. I know that I will think about all of these friends, and I treasure those thoughts in my heart, and I think about those memories, and I treasure them also in my heart. And so also the last passage on friends. A bosom friend, an intimate friend, a really kindred spirit to whom I can confide my innermost soul. I've dreamed of meeting her all my life. That was Anne's highest desire in her life, in coming to Green Gables in Avonlea. Now, when they finally get back to Green Gables, Anne meets Marilla, who is the sister of Matthew. And obviously, Marilla is very surprised. She was expecting a boy, and now here is this skinny girl with freckles on her face and red hair standing before her. And Anne is very nervous, and she tries to make the best of it. And Marilla asks her what her name is. And let's find out what Anne gives her as a name. You don't want me, Anne cried. You don't want me because I'm not a boy. I might have expected it. Nobody ever did want me. Well, don't cry anymore, says Marilla. We're not going to turn you out tonight. You'll have to stay here until we investigate this affair. What's your name?" "Will you please call me Cordelia?" she said eagerly. "Call you Cordelia? Is that your name?" "No, it's not exactly my name, but I would love to be called Cordelia. It's such a perfectly elegant name." "I don't know what on earth you mean. If Cordelia isn't your name, what is it?" "Anne Shirley," reluctantly faltered forth the owner of the name. "But oh, please do call me Cordelia. It can't matter much to you what you call me. If I'm only going to be here a little while, can it? Anne is such an unromantic name." "Unromantic? Fiddlesticks," says the unsympathetic Marilla. "Anne is a good, plain, sensible name. You've no need to be ashamed of it." "Oh, I'm not ashamed of it," Anne explained, "only I like Cordelia better. I always imagined my name was Cordelia. But if you call me Anne, please call me Anne with an E." Again, we see Anne's imagination, that even a name can transform her, that Cordelia would be elegant, and she wants to be elegant, whereas Anne is plain. And then when she has to be called Anne, when she knows that common sense Marilla is not going to go for Cordelia, she asks if it could be Anne with an E, that would add just that touch of elegance to her own name. And then later on in chapter 5, we learn what happens to Anne after her parents died and she became an orphan. She went to live with a family of Mr. and Mrs. Thomas and lived with them for a while until Mr. Thomas was killed in a train accident. And then she went to live up the river with a Mr. and Mrs. Hammond. And Mr. Hammond worked in a sawmill, and Mrs. Hammond had 8 children. She had twins 3 different times. And Anne says, "I like babies in moderation, but twins 3 times in succession is too much." I told Mrs. Hammond so firmly when the last pair came, I used to get so dreadfully tired carrying them about. And then eventually Anne ends up in an asylum. That's what they used to call orphanages, an asylum in Hopeton. And she said, "I had to go to the asylum at Hopeton because nobody would take me. They didn't want me at the asylum either. They said they were overcrowded as it was. But they had to take me, and I was there for 4 months until Mrs. Spencer came." And so now we know the full history behind Anne, why she came to Green Gables. Lucy Maud Montgomery also has some wonderful descriptions of nature. And so now let me go ahead and read a portion that is at the beginning of chapter 4, called Morning at Green Gables. Because yes, Anne has been allowed to stay the night at Green Gables, and while Marilla thinks over what they are going to do with this girl that was such a surprise to her. But here is how Montgomery describes what Anne sees outside her window. "But it was morning, and yes, it was a cherry tree in full bloom outside of her window. With a bound, she was out of bed and across the floor. A huge cherry tree grew outside, so close its boughs tapped against the house, and it was so thick set with blossoms that hardly a leaf was to be seen. Both sides of the house was a big orchard, one of apple trees and one of cherry trees, also showered over with blossoms, and their grass was all sprinkled with dandelions. In the garden below were lilac trees, purple with flowers, and their dizzily sweet fragrance drifted up to the window and on the morning wind. Isn't that just lovely? I can imagine every detail. I can see the picture that Montgomery is painting, that we see also through Anne's eyes. And I would like to be there. I would like to be that girl looking out on the cherry blossoms and the apple blossoms and the purple lilac trees. I just love lilacs, and I love their fragrance, and I can just almost smell them by reading these words. And I hope you can appreciate the beautiful descriptions that Montgomery wrote. And so I hope you have enjoyed this book review. Please tell me in the comments below what you love about Anne of Green Gables. Is it a comfort read for you? If not, let me know what your comfort reads are. And let me know if you have favorite passages from this book or from other books. I will read the comments, and I will think about doing a book review on books that I hear you mention. So I wish you a wonderful day, a pleasant time in every moment of your day. And I will say, this is my Anne from Green Gables. I'm wishing you, and Anne is wishing you, a wonderful day. May your imagination soar, and may you find comfort and joy in every day and in a good book. Take care, my friends. Goodbye for now. Friends and fellow book lovers, I just want to get you excited about the next book review that is coming up in another couple of weeks. The book will be A Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And this is another story about a young girl who is an orphan who has to learn how to be a friend. And so I hope that you will join me again and become part of this community of comfort and tea. Bye for now.